Good morning and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am Referee Bloodworth, since Game Masters are called referees in Hyperborea 3rd edition and probably previous editions as well. So, referee it is. So today's video, I am going to, as I said in the last, I am going to cover character generation and plus go over the attributes. And I'm going to chunk this down fairly small pieces and shorter videos. That way I can both cover the system like really well and as well as keep these kind of easy for you to manage as a viewer. So we'll break these things down into, I'm hoping like 10 to 15-minute videos maximum, but we'll see. Sometimes, I run off on a little tangent or whatever. So we'll see how it goes. But I think that these should be fairly short videos because the chapters are fairly short in Hyperborea 3rd edition. So without further ado, let me jump right into it. And we are going to take a look at character generation. So this is chapter 2, Hyperborea Primer. So regardless of your character's class, race, alignment, religion, and secondary skills, there are several facets of life that are generally known to most characters in Hyperborea. And so they go into, as proved by science and sorcery, Hyperborea is flat, hexagonal shaped world. The sun is a red giant that skirts along the horizon, never rising to its zenith. Two ellipsoid moons revolve around Hyperborea, one large and the other small. Saturn is immense in the sky. It is oft visible during diurnal and nocturnal hours. Right? I don't know. I've never heard that other word. Um, the week is 7 days, the month is 28 days, the year is 13 months, and the cycle is 13 years. A 13-year cycle includes a year of perpetual light and a year of perpetual darkness. The Hyperborean sea spills off the rim of the world into the infinite black gulf. The north wind, or Boreas, wheels around the realm beyond the rim of the world. Great obelisks rise from the six corners of the realm. Mount Vormithadon is Hyborea's North Pole axis and largest mountain. Cormarium, a cosmopolitan metropolis, is the largest city of the realm. And I'm guessing this is Zathaqua. Orthodoxy is the most prevalent religion of the realm. The indigenous Hyborian race once ruled Hyperborea. I keep kind of saying Hyborea. Hyperborea race once ruled Hyperborea with savage cruelty. A plague called the Green Death nearly obliterated mankind 1,000 years ago. So this is something that every character is going to have as part of their knowledge base, right? And I really like this because it gets right off from the get-go, helping to separate player knowledge and character knowledge and clearly identifying what characters actually know about the world. That way, when something becomes known to the player, they might ask themselves, well, does my character know this as well? Or how would my character have learned this going forward? So I really do think it's important to create two pools of knowledge, one that the player is going to have and one that the character is going to have. And don't let characters behave as if they have players' knowledge unless something in the game session, in the circumstances, in the experience of the uh, player character would allow for them to know that. So, very, very good to come off and just talk about what characters actually know as a base. So, creation steps. So, to generate or roll up a character, use a character sheet available or a leaf of lined paper to record your character. Another option is to use computer generated character sheets and maybe printed in Access. Okay, so generating the attributes. The attributes are strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. 6 different methods are presented. Some methods allow for allocation of scores, and others are strict. Record the results on the character sheet. Choosing a class. Classes for available character classes and subclasses, and then select one. Some classes include choices that you will have to make during creation. For example, a fighter must choose a weapon to master, and a warlock must select a specific school of magic. Record all class abilities on your sheet. Then you begin to develop a background to determine your character's race, physique, which includes their gender, age, height, weight, and appearance, alignment, languages, religion, and secondary skills. Record those on your character sheet. Then you will purchase equipment in step 4, and we'll refer to that when we get to that phase. I'm only going to spend time really with the first one, the attribute section. Then we'll go to possibly class, and then background will come later. Determining starting spells. If your character is a spellcaster, refer to chapter 7, which we'll do with later. And then finally, record other statistics. To complete character creation, return to chapter 3, statistics. You must review and record all other statistics, such as armor class, casting ability, fighting ability, hit dice, hit points, movement, saving throws, and turning ability. Definitions and applications of these various statistics are presented. Once the preceding 6 steps are complete, you are ready to play. All right, so let's start. Then they go into leveling up, and I will spend a little bit time here. So, the realm of Hyperborea is a deadly place, and your character will face many life threatening challenges. Through small and great deeds of adventure and um, daring do, sorry. If your character is fortunate enough to survive, he or she will gain experience points. When a character gains enough experience points, eligibility to advance to the next level of experience is achieved. Ultimately, attaining a new level is subject to the referee's approval. If your referee feels that the level gain is not justified, the completion of a quest or similar objective may be assigned. Level advancement is subject to training unless your referee prefers one of the optional methods presented in the referee's manual. Level gain checklist. So roll for additional hit points, adjust saving throws, check to see if fighting ability has increased. At level 4, 8, and 12, fighters and fighter subclasses are eligible for a new weapon. Check the class description if any new special abilities have developed, as some are level dependent. Check the class description to see if any special abilities have improved or changed. And finally, if the character is a spellcaster, determine the development of new spells. And so here we go with the statistics part, which you're going to go forward through all of these numbers of steps, and then you're going to come back to here to figure out some of the other one. So here are your very typical general attributes and how they're typically rolled, right? So method 1 is roll 3d6 for each attribute in order of strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. The results are your character's attribute scores. So this is the oldest method of old D&D, old school D&D, where you roll 3d6 and you assign them directly in order. Method two is done the same rolling mechanic wise. Repeat these steps twice more, producing three sets of scores, right? So you're going to roll 3d6 for each attribute in order. Then repeat these steps two more times, twice more, producing three sets of scores. Choose the sets that best suits the type of character you would like. Step three, roll 4d6 and discard the lowest. This is probably the most common method used. All right, and assign scores and attributes as desired. This is going to give you not super characters unless you're really lucky, but it's also going to give you the characters that you most want to play, because when you're able to assign your attributes, you'll be able to look at the character classes and then see, well, what would best fit this particular character class. Method four is roll 3d6 three times for each attribute in the order. Select the best result for each of the attributes. All right. Method five is roll 2d6 plus 6 for each attribute in order. All right. And those are your character's attributes. And six, let's see, choose your character class first and then use the following technique. Roll 3d6 for each attribute that does not have a required minimum score. Roll 4d6 and discard the lowest for each attribute that does have a minimum requirement. Score re-rolling until you receive the requisite minimums. That seems kind of complicated, I'm going to say. Um, I think that you should look at your character classes first anyway. So that should be like maybe one of the first things that you do, unless you're using the method one and you're willing to play whatever that method one, the 3d6 straight down in order, um, and see what character class would best suit those attribute scores. So yeah, I mean, there's a number of ways. Again, I have found that 4d6 drop the lowest, assign as you wish, is probably the most common and easiest way of using attribute score rolling. Attribute adjustment. This is another one where if you want to raise one, you reduce another by 2 points, but you can't raise beyond 18. And I've seen that a number of times as well. So strength, and these are all going to have the very typical, common numerical assignments that you're probably used to, right? So a 9 to 12 is average. It goes across the board. So there are no plus attack modifiers or damage modifiers for a 19 to a 12, a 9 through a 12 on strength. Uh, Strength tests are 3 out of 6. I'm sorry, 2 out of 6. So you have a 1/3 chance. And extraordinary feat of strength is only a 4% chance of doing so. Once you start getting into the range of 13 to 14, and this probably holds true for almost all of the attributes, I will double check to make sure. That's when you start getting a plus. So with strength, you're going to get a +1 to damage. Under dexterity, you're going to get a +1 to your attack with missiles. For constitution, you're going to get a +1 to your hit point adjustment at a 13 to 14. You don't start suffering minuses until you get to between 4 and 6 on that. Intelligence, a 13 to 14 will give you a +1 of languages. Uh, Magical spell bonus spells cast per day, you're going to get an extra level 1 spell that you can cast. And I've always liked that. I've always liked that the intelligence score, and I've actually homebrewed this in my own games as well. The intelligence score is going to give you a number of additional spells that you can cast um, based on that, rather than the additional languages. I've always liked giving them extra spell ability. I do the same for clerics with wisdom, and they do the same here as well. So I can already see, not having ever read this game system, that they were doing some of the things in here, and I'm sure it's carried over since 2012 when the first edition came out. Um, that these are just very common homebrews that we used while running a D&D first edition. And so you're kind of seeing that here already. So more modern presentation, but many of the homebrewed changes that we made along the decades of playing old school AD&D or D&D. And charisma gives you reaction and loyalty, as you would expect. Additional henchmen later on, an undead turning adjustment. All right, so that's a charisma effect. So that is pretty cool, and they don't have that for cleric's primary of wisdom. So that's pretty cool. All right, that charisma becomes your turning effect adjustment, and so it makes it where clerics or priests, whatever they're going to call them, I guess they call them clerics here. Clerics really have to make sure that they have a high wisdom and a high charisma. It kind of makes sense that clerics should have a high charisma, because they're basically trying to attract a flock of constituents to their religion. So it makes sense that they would want to have a high charisma as well as their wisdom. So the other statistics are obviously going to be armor class. Armor class is most likely going to be, and I'm reading it to see the numerical representation, that capacity to absorb, avoid, divert, and withstand blows. Every armor type has an AC rating. A normal unarmored character is a 9, AC 9. Dexterity, shield, and other factors are modified. The bonuses reduce, improve the AC figure, whereas penalties increase or worsen it. Lower AC is more desirable. So this uses descending armor class, which I find kind of surprising. Uh, Armor class may vary according to circumstances. For example, one may have an AC versus melee attacks and an AC versus missile attacks, an AC when fighting sand shield, and an AC when completing unarmed. Completing, yes, unarmed, and so on. So I'm quite surprised that it doesn't have ascending armor class, because that's something it says where, i.e., a lower AC is more desirable. Yeah, so that's interesting. Casting ability is CA, so that's something that's interesting to see. Never seen, well, I haven't seen that in quite a while. I've seen it in other games, but not very many of them. Fighting ability is usually like a basic to hit, which you see in Castles and Crusades. Hit die, so for D4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Hit points, an evaluation of the ability to withstand and minimize physical damage through a combination of experience, fitness, physicality, skill, and no amount of luck. To simply associate hit points with health is a misconception. Hit points are rolled at character creation, and at each level they gain through ninth. At 10th level and beyond, a static hit point figure is added to the character's total. This amount indicates at each class entry, fighters gain 3 points per level. After 9, magic users gain 1. Players should carefully track their character's hit points using a pencil each place, all right, and so on. And then movement rate, and we'll get into that when we deal with combat. Saving throws, and we will also get into that when we get to combat. And then turning ability, which is classes, just clerics are able to turn. Now, classes, there are a number of them. I'll just do a preview here. The principal classes overview. So you have fighter, you have magician. Um, it tells you their attribute requirements. So with strength of a 9 and intelligence of a 9, a cleric requires a wisdom of a 9, and a thief requires dexterity of 9. Then we go to the fighter subclasses. So barbarians, and then these are the attribute modifiers. So they require 3 attribute modifiers: 13 in strength, dexterity, and constitution. A berserker needs just strength and constitution of 15, so pretty hard to be a berserker. Attribute requirements for a cataphract um, is 9, 9, 9, and 9, so 4 attributes of 9. A huntsman, we have 3 attributes of 9 and 1 of 12. A wilderness warrior who glories in the hunt and subdues beasts. A paladin, which is one, two, three nines and 115. That's certainly reduced from AD&D First Edition, where you generally need a much higher charisma than that, and some other stats as well. A ranger, 4 stats of 9. A warlock, um, which falls under the fighter subclass. All right, so a warlock is going to be 3 stats of 12, basically. The magician subclasses, uh, a chiromancer, which I know nothing about, so I'm going to have to double check that and learn about those when I go into detail. An illusionist, a necromancer, a pyromancer, and a witch. And as you can see, some require higher attribute requirements, like such as the witch here requires all 3 stats in there. Cleric subclasses: the druid, the monk, the priest, the rune graver, and the shaman. And the most difficult, I guess, is the monk. All right, a warrior priest who strives for physical, spiritual, and mental mastery. That kind of makes sense. Um, thief subclasses: we have the assassin, the bard, legerdemainist, purloiner, and scout. Class terms and definitions. So go through all of these here. And finally, we'll go into the greater class features and deal with them separately. So I'm going to leave it there. And, so once again, you might want to take a look at the character classes, see what which class you might want to, play. And then when you're rolling one of those rolling methods, then you'll be able to determine, well, which, how am I going to place them in the order if you're using one of those systems. Or if you're using the method 1, where you're just rolling 3d6 and place them in order, um, then you can look at the character classes and say, well, which ones am I still eligible for based on my rolls? So in the next video, I will start going through the classes themselves and describing each of the core classes. And later on, at some other date, I might go into the each of the subclass sections for each of the primary classes and kind of talk about some of those in more detail. I'll certainly look for the ones that are more unique that I haven't seen in other game systems and focus on it in that way. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you hadn't subscribed, please consider subscribing. This video, even though I'm recording it on a Monday, I am going to probably post this thing up on Wednesday morning. So it'll be a couple days before you actually see this, although you won't realize it because that's when it'll post up regardless, because my lawn guy is here and I don't want it to start disturbing as I try to hammer out some additional videos today. So have a great day, rest of your week, and as always, I look forward to seeing you on the gaming screen sometime soon. And in upcoming weeks and months with all of the conventions, maybe I'll actually be able to meet some of you in person at some of these local, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, even Massachusetts. That's kind of my range where I can go and still do a day trip and still go to in person conventions. So have a great day. Thanks for stopping in. Take care.